Hey, what's going on, guys? Indy here with Ultimate Tool Reviews. Got a more, I guess you could say, rare tool. It's not a very common tool that is really used or seen. You've probably never seen this in stores before. This is the Makita CXT. This is the quarter inch. You don't see a lot of quarter inch impacts anywhere. A quarter inch impact, it's a brush tool, CXT, so it's a 12-volt line from Makita. And this thing is pretty interesting. Now, you might be expecting I might not going to do any speed tests because I don't have anything else that compares to this. I'm not really aware of who else makes a quarter inch impact. Never really looked into it. I think DeWalt does. Maybe Milwaukee does. I'm not too sure there. But the closest thing I have to it is going to be the LXT. This is a 3/8 inch impact. This is the XWT12. This also comes in black as well too. I've got one of those. I think one of the best, all around, light to mid duty impacts are these. You find them on eBay for like $60. I finally picked up one of these brand new in the box for, I think I paid like $40 for this thing. And I've been kind of curious to see just how useful it is. There's no speed settings for it. You got one little LED here, forward, reverse. That's it. There's nothing really else to it. Now, if you're wondering though, hey, what is the power comparison here? About 1/3 as powerful. Yeah, it's that big of a difference. This thing, it does well over 120 foot-pounds, or sorry, 120 foot-pounds. Yes, I get inch-pounds and foot-pounds confused all the time. This thing says right here on the box, 44. So yeah, it's not even really worth testing this thing to do any type of like speed torque comparisons. It's designed for, quarter inch sockets, very light duty work. And if you're doing a lot of like, small stuff on vehicles, maybe like small trim work, small, little bolts, this thing is pretty handy. I bought it just for doing, small stuff underneath the vehicle, just small little things here and there where I don't want to pull out a ratchet. I don't want to have to be, using this thing. Now, one thing I find that's strange about this is, check this out. They are about the same width. Maybe the 3/8 is like just ever so slightly wider, but which one do you think is longer? Well, it's going to be the quarter inch is longer, which is baffling to me. Why is that longer? It's 1/3 as powerful. That's kind of wild. I mean, yeah, it is brushless. I'm sorry, this is brushed, this is brushless. So that's kind of a classic Makita thing. A lot of the Makita brush stuff is just massive for like no reason whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I think like the XWT12s are just phenomenal impact drivers or impact wrenches to have. They really do it all. They've got modes on them. Basically a $20 difference on eBay for these things. I mean, I was lucky to get this thing for $40. You usually go for like around 60, 70 anyways. And then these go for like 60, 70 for the most part. So, very, very close in price. CXT is in a kind of a league of its own of not a lot of tools. It's kind of like the forgotten stepchild of Makita kind of thing there. That's kind of what Makita does. They've kind of got like, they've got 12 volt, 18 volt, and now 40 volt. 40 volt's getting really all their attention. LXT's kind of been left in the dust a bit, and CXT is like, 100 miles behind. They totally forgot about CXT years ago for the most part. But quarter inch still useful, but very uncommon, I will say. You don't see it used very much. I've got a ton of little quarter inch sockets. They're cheap. They go on sale often, and I don't use them as much as I should. So that's kind of the one thing there. But I'm curious though, what is our weight difference here? No batteries between these two. What are we going to be here? 1 pound, 12.2 ounces. I mean, it doesn't feel super light. Nothing Makita really ever does. They really build it for, durability, longevity. 1 pound, 13.7. Wow, that is really close. We're like 1 ounce off difference in these two. That is wild. Hugely different tools. I mean, when you add the battery in, these things are tiny little lightweight batteries. I mean, I still think, even with batteries, the 12 volt is going to be still somewhat lighter, but then again, the LXT little 1.5 ampere batteries are pretty light too. So I was hoping that would be a bigger difference in those two, but wow, that is not much of a difference. unless you can pick one of these things for like 40 bucks, you already got the CXT system. It's kind of hard to say, yeah, get one of these tools, you know. I'm 100% certain, I will say, well, maybe 99% certain that they don't make a brushless version of this. I don't think they do. They might in Japan, but I have not seen one myself. I really don't do a lot of the CXT stuff because Makita hasn't really done anything with it, you know, in quite a while. So that's kind of the one thing about it. Still a cool tool though, and I will say one thing I do like about these impact wrenches is a lot of like the DeWalt Milwaukee stuff, they're aiming for a shorter body, but you have to have some of that space go somewhere. So they have the heads become super thick on a lot of those tools. Milwaukee and DeWalt are both guilty of that. I've been a huge fan of these kind of longer tools, but really thin bodies. Really allows you to get into like tighter areas with relative ease. It kind of has to actually just have both, in my opinion, because you never know what you're going to run into. Like getting between a stud bay with this, not going to happen. But with the shorter bodies, the thicker heads, super easy then. So it kind of depends what you're doing. For me, though, I found that this style of design works the best for the majority of stuff that I do. I've still kind of got both options there with a lot of the Makita stuff, but it's kind of been my favorite is kind of doing this. But I did want to show this tool in action. I've got a couple of little self-tappers here. We're going to go in a little bit of wood here, see how well that does. And I'm not expecting a whole lot. I have used this tool a little bit, but, you know, I'm just pulling off, you know, small stuff here and there with this thing. You know, it's not like it's like, you know, it's such a powerful tool, you know, or I wish I had more power with this thing. It's really just designed to basically be a glorified electric screwdriver with an impact function. That's about it, really. That's really all this thing is, you know, super low power. You know, I'm sure with battery life in this thing, you'll get a lot of battery life with this thing. But let's try out this, see how well it does. I'm not expecting too much with this. Yeah, it's got the power to put these in, you know. I mean, it is a little loud, that impact mechanism in there. Actually, that is actually surprisingly loud. Wow, actually, let me put this thing on there and see how loud this thing gets too. I'm kind of curious to hear the difference in volume between these two. This thing seems pretty, when you really put this thing under load, it is loud. Okay, let's give this thing a shot, full speed. Kind of curious the difference in just how loud this thing is. No, actually about the same. Kind of seems like they have the same impact mechanisms between these two. But, you know, for how much difference in power there is between these two, it's kind of surprising that this is about the same, you know, put the same amount of, you know, just noise as the WT12, being about 1/3 as powerful. You know, pulling stuff out with this thing is, you know, fine. It does it pretty simple. But for the most part, you never really engage that impact mechanism that much in this thing. For the majority of stuff I've been using this thing for, you know, small screws, it just pops them right out. You know, I would say maybe 10% of the screws, it might have like 1 or 2 quick impacts, then it broke it loose, bam, there you go. So you're really not going to be using the impact on this too much, you know, for the majority of stuff you're doing. Like this is ridiculous overkill for this tool. I mean, you should not be doing any type of this stuff with this tool. Not at all what it's designed for. Probably the biggest thing for this thing, I'm surprised they don't have any modes on this thing, you know. But the variable trigger is, you know, all Makita triggers, very sensitive. I wish it was even better than this. I mean, there's a bit of play here. You can see that. I wish that was a little bit more, but again, Makita triggers have always been just, you know, top end in my opinion. But pretty cool, you know, it still can throw in some, you know, small lag bolts. That's about all it can do. I mean, I'm sure if I tried anything bigger than this, it would be struggling really bad, really quick. Yeah, I mean, it's getting in there, but it's not the quickest thing out there. But again, though, I mean, if you can find this thing cheap, you do some, you know, smaller socket work, yeah, 40 bucks. CXT is still a pretty phenomenal value. My experience, I've only actually had like one CXT tool ever fail on me. I had one of the brush drills just start smoking like crazy. I was probably drilling a little bit too big with it, but it was kind of like one of the only drills I had on hand. I just had it like as a backup drill. It did the job, I will say that. It got me through the job, but I did have to RMA it, and Makita was totally cool. They didn't care what it was. They just said, here's a new drill, thanks. I took it to the service center. So pretty cool. Oh, and before I go here, let's compare the weights of these two with batteries. I'm kind of curious to see the actual operational weight of these. kind of compare. They're so similar without batteries. It's kind of wild. 2 pounds, 3.7 ounces. Let's see what the XWT12 is. Yeah, not too bad. About 7 ounce difference there. That is really, really close. Actually, almost, 6.3 ounce difference. Barely, barely noticeable between these two, which is kind of surprising. Yeah, the battery footprint is a pretty big difference, honestly. But even that 3/8 inch, if you had a really short adapter on this thing, you adapted that down to 1/4 inch, you could pretty much have this tool be shorter than this tool with a 1/4 inch adapter on it, which is kind of surprising. But again, no, it's a cool tool from Makita. Do I recommend it? No. But is it cool to have, cool to use? Yeah. I would say, of course, just pick up one of these, pick up the sockets you need. If you want to go to the 1/4 inch, grab a 1/4 inch adapter for it. But if you really want to go with one of these, you can find one cheap. It's a pretty cool tool to have, guys. And I'll leave a link in the description. You want to check it out on Amazon too. But I love doing Makita reviews. They're always really cool, really well-built tools. Even if they're kind of, what's Makita doing with this thing, kind of weird. But again, I always have fun with these reviews, guys. But guys, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great day and stay safe out there.